Welcome to Issues with Cartoons, the show that analyzes cartoons and comic books. My name is Carl Lucas.
My name is Kyle Windle.
And today we'll be taking a look at Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Episode 17, The Man Who Stole Tomorrow.
This is the Kang Palooza that we've been looking forward to, Carl.
I know. All this talk about Kang, he's finally here.
Yeah.
We get a full episode with him.
Yeah, multiple, actually. This is the first of a 3-part episode series, all centered around Kang the Conqueror, written by Andrew Robinson and directed by Sebastian Montez. This is a return of Kang. He first actually showed up in episode 4, the Captain America minisode series, where he was observing Captain America being frozen in ice and kind of his last mission in World War II. So we've seen some Kang. We saw the setup where his future timeline is being erased. So we have some kind of idea of what his motivation is, but we really dive in with this episode.
Yeah, there's been a lot of seeds planted of his motivation and things. And we do get more clarity on his obsession with Cap.
Yeah.
We do get a little bit of that.
I'm interested in hearing your thoughts about that. So, right off the rip, let's just say the intro lineup for this episode is Hawkeye, Hulk, Cap, Iron Man, Thor, Giant Man, Wasp, and the Black Panther. We still got that core group that we've been kind of following for the last little while now. We've had some other Avengers characters kind of come in and out, like Mockingbird and like Captain Marvel and all those other characters. But like we're still with this core group. And they're who we kind of follow. So right off the bat, we get Damocles, the kind of sword spaceship that Kang operates out of. And we get that in order. We kind of see Ravana is in stasis, and we kind of see that he's kind of getting ready to make his move. Damocles was the spaceship that was introduced during the Kurt Busiek Kang Dynasty storyline that we're going to be covering next episode. But I did want to just ask you, have you ever heard of the word Damocles before?
No, not before this.
So I figured it was a reference to something.
Okay.
Because it was created by Kurt Busiek.
What does it mean?
So the sword of Damocles is an analogy that comes from a Greek, I think it's a Greek myth. I don't think it's like based on a historical fact, but the story is of this man who tells a ruler that he's so jealous of the ruler's success and how it must be so great to be king, and how he must love being the king. And so the king tells this man Damocles, well, why don't you take over for a day? And in the myth, the king hangs a sword above the man's head, and it's hanging by a literal thread. And the idea is, for as great as being king is, you are always under threat of being usurped or being taken down by your enemies or rivals, or there's always a motivation to unseat you.
As Jay-Z would say, watch the throne.
Yeah, yeah. As the prophet Jay-Z says, the great philosopher Jay-Z says, watch the throne. And so, in the context of Kang, you think the Kang the Conqueror piloting the sword of Damocles, which is literally hanging above Earth's head as he's about to invade.
I like that symbolism for it.
Yeah.
And when it shows up in we're going to talk about that. I don't want to talk about too much, but it does resemble a sword like the comic book does. It is more of a spaceship in the cartoon, though.
You're right.
I will say that. It has more windows and...
Yeah, it definitely has a more...
trappings of a sci-fi spaceship than,
Nevertheless, that was kind of my research going into that.
And this intro was very brief, too.
It was.
It's just kind of Kang shows up at Earth, and then boom, we get full intro, we get the song, and then, we're off running. And then we open with Tony and Steve are discussing what a futurist is.
I love this scene.
Because it runs parallel to
course,
Kang.
In the time travel episode, of course, we naturally have a discussion about what a futurist is.
Yeah, it's nice.
And it sets up kind of the insecurities of Tony throughout this Kang storyline, which the thing Tony hangs his hat on is he is building the future and is always prepared because he's so smart that he can be ready for any inevitability. Until that threat is something that's so far in the future that he could never prepare for it.
And that's this whole conversation with Steve. You know, him and Steve enter into a sparring match, kind of, and Iron Man brings that up that like Steve bests him in combat without the suit, but Tony's just like, I could build a suit for any situation. I could build 4 suits, Steve. Yeah. Da da da. You know, and I'll always have that prep time, but Steve brings up, you know, what if you don't have the suit? So yeah, a lot of this has to do with Tony's flaws.
Yeah, and a lot of it is kind of... And like his flaws as a person, as a hero, and as a leader. Kind of throughout this whole run, we're kind of starting to see cracks in the wall.
I thought that sequence was cool. I like Iron Man fighting Cap in the training room.
I love that Cap was like, you know, if I had to guess, I'd say you've never actually been in a fight, which is...
It was fun. Hawkeye and Hulk kind of overseeing the fight too and palling around.
Yeah. Laughing at Tony getting knocked out of the butt.
They like took a seat before it started. They were like, "All right, we're ready to watch this."
They practically said, "Get out the popcorn." I mean, that's basically what it was.
Yeah.
And then after that fight, though, Carl,
big moment.
We cut and we see the city and we pan up, and I looked and I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting like shape of the landscaping." And then they go up and I'm like, wait, that's kind of looking like a circle. What is this? And it was a number 4, and we cut, and I don't know if it's the Baxter Building or 4 Freedoms Plaza or whatever they were trying to call it, but it was basically the home of the Fantastic Four that we cut to. Which
no punches pulled.
We've heard mentioned, but we see a picture of the Fantastic Four
from
this world
they're
for the first
in the
time.
Episode. We get Ben Grimm, Mr. Fantastic, Sue Storm, Johnny. Yeah, and they're there and they're part of the plot in this episode, which is super cool.
They're off screen. They're in the Earth's core right now, but they recontributed to a setting that is going to be very important to the rest of this season, which is Area 42, which is a reference to a prison from the Civil War storyline. Yeah,
so they're taking Blizzard into this Fantastic Four building we've established, and then they pass through something very famous from the Fantastic Four books, the Negative Zone.
Yes.
This prison is inside the Negative Zone, which was super cool.
The rendering of the Negative Zone was really well done.
Where Hank steps into it and he becomes a white line.
Yeah.
And there's just black around him.
Do negative space. It was really, really effective. Very, very cool.
That was really cool.
And the wrinkle that they added to the Prison 42 that's unique to this show, that was not in the original Civil War comic, is the wardens of Prison 42 are the same wardens of the Big House from earlier in the season, and that's an army of Ultrons.
Yeah.
Worth noting, too, Blizzard, by the way, voiced by Troy Baker, who is getting a lot of work on this show.
Definitely.
Wally Wingert, who is the voice of Hank, voiced Ultron in this episode. And I want you to just keep that in mind for when we talk about next episode, because there is a change that happens, and they change the voice actor. But Wally Wingert...
I think I know what moment you're talking about.
But Wally Wingert does double duty in this episode where he's Hank and he's Ultron. Ultron... we're going to talk a lot about Ultron. So
and they're greeted by Ultron 5, and, you know, he seems like a very peaceful robot.
Yeah. If you're an Avengers fan, though, you've heard the name Ultron 5. I love the seed that they're planting with this Negative Zone prison, these Ultrons.
I think it's cool because it's like they didn't need to do that. No. They didn't need to put Fantastic Four into the plot, but you know, Chris Yost is obviously a fan and he loves his continuity, but I feel like they took an extra step with this episode.
I like that you point that out.
Yeah, I didn't expect it.
This very easily could have been in the sub-level of the mansion.
Anywhere else.
It could have been Tony and Hank working on it. Reed didn't have to be involved at all.
Yeah, we didn't need to put the Negative Zone in it.
You're
but
right.
I thought it was cool. I was like, this episode's wild.
Yeah, it's fantastic,
yeah.
if you will. We cut back to Cap and Iron Man, and they're starting to suit up. I'm not sure if they were planning on sparring again, or why they were
they're
suited up.
Like in their costumes.
But then the big moment arrives, and Kang shows up.
Yeah.
In a time chair that reminded me a lot of the Mobius chair from the Fourth World.
With that, yeah.
But anyway,
Apocalypse, Darkseid sits in.
Yeah,
that's where you're getting
So
it was like that.
Kang arrives, has come to the future to deliver a message to Captain America, and then he just starts
he's
cleaning house with the Avengers.
He starts fighting them. Like, Cap and Iron Man immediately start fighting Kang shortly after he shows up.
Probably the most formidable fight they've had with, like, a single character. Like, they fought the Masters of Evil, and that was a tough fight for them. They fought, like, the Kree Sentry, and that was a tough fight for them. But, like, all of them try to take a pass at Kang, and they all pretty much fail for the most part. You know, he kind of... Well, first of all, he calls Tony's armor amusing, which is, like, the worst thing you could say to Tony Stark.
Really just breaking down Tony's ego across these episodes.
More than amusing, he calls it primitive, which I think probably was the salt in the wound for Tony.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, it was great. But yeah, we kind of get the setup that Kang's goal is to eliminate Cap from the timeline to save the world, because a disruption in the space-time continuum has destroyed his reality, and he's found an anomaly in the 21st century, and he thinks that anomaly is Captain America.
Yeah, and Kang mentions that he is from the 41st century.
Yeah, it's very in line with the comics.
Yeah, he's like way in the future, just to make that clear.
Yeah.
You know, he's coming in. And I also want to bring up that Kang first appeared in Fantastic Four 19 in 1963.
Yes.
As a different character.
Rama Tut. Rama Tut the Pharaoh. And actually, we're gonna talk about Avengers number 8, the first appearance of him as Kang, in the second half of the show. Mm-hmm. But it is worth noting that he was Rama Tut first. Also surprising to me, revisiting the issue, that they make that connection very quickly, and they do. Yeah, they do. They do make allusions to that in this run of episodes, but we'll talk about that more.
Yeah, that does come up. Yeah, I did want to talk about that as well.
Yeah, and I just want everyone at home to just keep in mind that he's not actually... I don't think it's ever explicitly proven that it's Cap. He's just saying there's an anomaly in the 21st century. And
yeah, he says
it's got to be Captain America. He doesn't belong here.
Yeah, because Captain America is not alive usually, is what's implied. Or he's not in this era. He's not in this era.
You're not from the modern world, you're from the 40s.
Yeah, so he does, you're right, he calls him an anomaly.
Just put a pin in that, folks, for a little while. I have a theory, but I'm not going to be able to cover that theory yet.
So Kang takes the Avengers 10 years into the future.
I love this.
Yeah, just drags him out, and that's where our big fight sequence of the episode is really.
Before that, though, Thor crashes in with Wasp and Hank and says, "You wish to end a life villain, then try ours." And Wasp says, "Yeah." Wait, what? And I just love that moment. But yeah, he takes them 10 years into the future and shows them that a war with the Kree and the Skrull, which the Kree-Skrull War is a major part of Avengers lore, that we'll be covering.
Comes up a lot.
And the Kree-Skrull War involves Earth, and the sun becomes a casualty in that war, and Captain America is somehow responsible for the chaos that ensues. And Kang is positing that it is this event, this war, that leads to the elimination of his timeline. Again, just put a pin in all of this, because I do have a theory. In a few episodes, I would like to revisit this, because I think Kang might be wrong, but I have a reason why I think so. They have a big brawl 10 years in the future.
Yeah, and the city's burning and stuff. They had some almost like digital effects in the background a little bit with some
like
of the
fires
and stuff.
It was an interesting kind of abstract way to present that, I thought.
I thought it was fun. I thought it was fun though too.
It.
And when Kang, the big moment for me was when Kang was like, "Well, I'm going to leave you here. You dare attack me," is kind of how it came across. And then Pym takes control of a bunch of cockroaches. Because they can survive a nuclear explosion. So he takes a bunch of cockroaches and stops Kang.
And I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it again. Ant-Man saves the day. When he turns into Giant Man later, immediately taken out. I
noticed that.
So they have this fight, and meanwhile, Tony is trying to hack the time chair. Everything's way too far advanced. But there is a kind of cool loophole that Tony finds. Like kind of a turn in the episode is when Tony is trying to hack the chair, and the software is way too advanced for him. But when he looks at the hardware, he sees that a lot of the hardware is rooted in ancient technology for Kang, but for Tony, it's very familiar because it's Stark Tech, which serves as the basis for Kang's technology. So that is Tony's into getting into the chair.
He mentions that when he takes it over. It's just one line of dialogue, really.
Yeah, but it is cool that like Tony does get a moment where he's like, okay, well, at least I have some contribution that will help solve this problem.
Yeah, because he is getting smacked down a lot in this episode by Cap and the villain.
yeah. He's been getting put on his ass quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so Thor brings down the lightning and pretty much like demolishes Kang. Kang goes away.
Yeah, he goes back up into space or whatever.
Yeah, and so they kind of think that the problem is resolved, but Cap suspects this probably isn't the end. And Tony has a great line where he says, "That's the problem with the future. It's always there waiting for you." Again, kind of tying back into that conversation about futurism at the beginning of the episode.
It was a cool way to bookend it, and I like that, like tying it all together, kind of giving it some feng shui,
Yeah.
Tie all these plots together.
Yeah. Tied the room together. And then you get the little button at the end where Kang says, "Well, it's time to teach the 21st century why they call me Kang the Conqueror."
And then, that's the big line. I wrote that line of dialogue down.
And then that's when we see all the ships start showing up. And
Kang has an invasion force. He's ready to take over Earth. It's full on Star Wars.
I mean, it's like Independence Day with Will Smith. Like it's about to go down.
Brings in a bunch of shit. I did like the shot, like when he said that, it just focused on his mouth, like the camera cut, and it was like just his jaw. I like that.
I like the design of Kang in this. I thought it was a really strong design.
I felt like it's a little bit different from the comic in that like it's more squarish. It's almost like a TV screen or something.
Yeah, it's definitely more angular.
Yeah,
whereas the other one's a little more rounded. Worth noting, just real quick, Jonathan Adams is the voice of Kang. He was also John Jones in Crisis on Two Earths. He was also Atrocitus in Green Lantern, the animated series. Does a great job. Great performance by him. What did you think of this characterization of Kang? Because I know that you've had some exposure to Kang prior to this coverage.
I certainly don't know the character as well as you. I mean, like, we spent some time talking about how confusing his timeline is.
Oh my gosh.
Comparing it to the Summers family tree.
Guys, you don't even have to read it. Just look at how long his wiki is.
That's what I mean. Like, we had a long discussion about who had the more confusing origins, him or Phoenix. But,
it's a toss-up.
Or a timeline or family history. But his characterization in this, I thought it was fine, and it was very classic. He just kind of shows up, fights the Avengers, which is very much like his first appearance we're going to be talking about later. I think where the characterization is different is that Kang is usually more like boastful that he's taken over worlds. And in this one, he's like a little bit more laid back, and we're just kind of getting an intro of this character.
And I was going to say this.
Be the big thing.
I was going to say something similar where like his motivation's slightly more sympathetic because he's trying to save his timeline.
Exactly.
He's trying to save Ravana.
Yeah.
But then he couches it in, and this is going to tie in more to the Busick story that we're going to read next episode, but he couches it in, I know how to fix it. I just have to take over everything. And you just have to submit your will to me.
And I'll take
care of everything.
Yeah.
So he's like almost masking his ambition with justifying it with some sort of sympathetic cause. Now, like, who's to say he's not genuine and wanting to like save his timeline? But we also know he's called Kang the Conqueror. Like, he's very driven by ambition. I'm also a little biased because Kang has always been one of my favorite villains, one of my favorite Avengers characters.
I've known about Kang. Like, of course, I frequent comic shops, and I've seen Kang, and I've read comics with Kang.
And
but
he gets involved in a lot of corners of Marvel.
I'll be honest, I didn't read the beginnings of the character till this. You know what I mean? Like, I've never read Kang's origin.
That said, though, you have been doing a reread of Fantastic Four comics, and you've been reading, like, the Fantastic Four, what number was it?
It's 19.
19.
Yeah, it's 19.
Annual number 2, he shows up again.
Yeah, and Annual 2 is the origin of Doctor Doom, so it's like the beginning of that comic is like I think it's like 16 pages or something like that of like, might be shorter, of just like, Doctor Doom being raised by, his origin basically in the village and stuff, and his mother and all that stuff. And then you get Doctor Doom runs into Ramatut in space.
Wild.
And you get that crazy conversation where it's like, am I you or are you me? Or are we both the same man? And it's like a little insane. It doesn't make sense, but
honestly, what really helped me understand Kang is I read Avengers Forever when I was like 10 years old.
Okay.
And it's still my favorite Avengers story. It's still my favorite Kang story. But it's basically a war between Kang and Immortus. And there's an issue that kind of stops everything. And it's just basically here's the history of Kang the Conqueror. And they try to make sense of all the different convoluted, like, continuity things.
They address it.
Yeah, the things that don't quite line up, they make it make sense, which Bluesky is very good at. But he's definitely the most convoluted character in Avengers lore. Is definitely Kang. I can't think of one that's more convoluted.
But isn't Immortus Kang?
Yeah.
As well.
Sometimes.
Like, Immortus is like a future. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Immortus is a future version of Kang.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
that's why it's complicated.
That's what I mean. And like we could make an argument too that Ramatut is Doom in his early appearance, but
and then they changed their mind.
And then they changed their mind by Avengers 9. But
and then his name is also Nathaniel Richards, which is a separate character from Fantastic Four lore. Mm-hmm. There's also Iron Lad. There's Scarlet Centurion. There's Victor Timely. There's all kinds of it. I mean, listen, I'm just telling you names. I'm not even getting into the Council of Cross-Time Kangs. I'm not even getting into...
We're only talking about one Kang here.
We're talking about one Kang. And honestly, this is where the show, I think, maybe has an advantage over the MCU.
Streamlines it a little bit.
They streamline it way more, and I think where the MCU maybe bit off more than it could chew is that they couched Kang as a multiverse character. And he is a multiverse character. A lot of stories about Kang involve the multiverse. Avengers Forever starts as a time story and it becomes a multiverse story.
How could you not?
Right. I think where this show wisely maybe tweaked it a little bit is they didn't talk about the multiverse once. It's all just the future and the past. Past, present, future. That's all Kang deals with. We aren't kind of getting caught up in things like multiple versions of Kang, younger and older versions of Kang. We're only dealing with, I'm from the future, and you're from the past, and your past causes a threat to my future. Done. And I think that's where they are able to kind of circumvent a lot of the convoluted mess that Kang brings.
Yeah, do you think that serves the character better? When he doesn't have all that backstory. Do you prefer that? Like, if he just do you prefer Kang just to show up as a conqueror?
I think there's something charming about the complication. I think for the purposes of this show, you are able to just get into the action very quickly without having to do a whole lot of explaining. I mean, there's a very long exposition
which is good storytelling.
Yeah, and there's a long exposition scene in this episode where he talks about the future, and they're in that 10 years in the future hellscape. Can you imagine if on top of that, they had to do another 5 minutes explaining all the various complexities of the multiverse and multiversal versions of Kang and all that stuff?
Look, this show barely gave us Fantastic Four. We don't have time for that.
We don't have time for that.
We got lucky we even got that.
And I'd be interested to know if they were to do a season 3 or a season 4, if they would start to introduce elements. But I think where Kang, even in the comics, benefited from, because in the comics they don't mess with the multiverse. Like the idea of Kang being the younger version of Immortus comes later. They kind of slow roll it out because they're kind of thinking of new ways to make it more complex. They had the Rama Tut complication in there, which was almost too much anyway. But I think the key to getting Kang digestible for audiences, I think, based on watching this compared to the MCU, is just like make it really simple and then layer the complexities with more introductions as you go along.
I'm going to say this, and this might be controversial.
Oh, that's my favorite kind of thing you say.
But I think that this lineup of Avengers is superior to 616 and that we get more of the classic characters for longer.
Do you mean
if that makes
from
sense?
The comics or the MCU, or do you mean?
I mean just the comics
lineup.
Yeah, just in general, like that you get 8 adventures in a row of like the Hulk with Iron Man.
Yeah.
And I think
Black
that's
Panther and Hawkeye.
All I'm getting at is I think that is more of a crowd pleasing lineup than what actually happened in 616, where everything was stagnated a little bit.
This is a very strong lineup of characters.
Yeah.
I have 2 criticisms. This lineup is very male and it's very white.
Yeah.
Other than that, though.
Other than T'Challa and Black Widow and Jan.
Well, Black Widow's not even a member yet.
Mm-hmm.
But other than those 2 kind of gripes, those 2 kind of nitpicks, this is one of my favorite lineups of Avengers. If they ever were able to do Scarlet Witch, and throw her into the mix.
Oh, you mean you were hopeful for like Scarlet Witch in this show?
Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver do not show up in the show. I will just say that right away.
Oh, really?
And they're enormous chunks.
They're huge parts of the canon.
The Avengers canon.
Does Vision show up?
Does he?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes, he does. I will just go ahead and say.
Okay.
Vision will show up.
Vision shows
Ultron's
up.
in the show. Vision will show up.
There was probably, you know what? At this time, there was probably that embargo. It was probably, you can't put mutants in this show because, we've talked about it before, for a very long time, you couldn't put mutants in anything.
Well, and we mentioned at the beginning when we first started covering this show that Wolverine and the X-Men was initially going to be tied into this show. And
Quicksilver was in that.
And then they deviated. Was he in Wolverine and the X-Men?
Yeah.
Was Wanda in it?
I will say, I can't remember if Wanda's in it, but I will say that Quicksilver was heavily featured. He's the leader of the Brotherhood.
You know what's so interesting about that is Quicksilver shows up way more in the X-Men animated series, and Wanda only gets a little bit here and there. It's interesting, they're always going to do more Quicksilver stuff. Same with Evolution. Wanda doesn't show up in Evolution until season 3, but Quicksilver's there from season 1. He always gets more play than Wanda, and I feel like Wanda's a way more important character.
Wanda,
she's also way more complicated.
In the history of Marvel canon, Scarlet Witch does way more than Quicksilver.
But in other media, until the MCU, she kind of doesn't get as much play.
It's true.
She is in the Iron Man animated area, and we're getting way off.
We're
off
in the multiverse.
We are. But just with your point about this lineup, it is one of the reasons why I think this is better than the MCU. This lineup is so much more...
Kyle, that's controversial.
I'll say it again. I think this is the 3rd time on this show I've said it. I'll stick by it.
Yeah, you'll stick by that? Okay.
I do feel like the lineup is more familiar to comics fans. The characterizations are more familiar to comics fans. Mm-hmm. The presentation, the designs, way more familiar to comics fans. And I think the character dynamics are stronger in a lot of ways. I think if you're not Cap, Hulk, Thor, or Iron Man in the MCU, your dynamics amongst the ensemble aren't as aren't as well played.
That's my argument. Is people, if you're watching Marvel anything in 2024, you want Hulk, you want Cap, you want Iron Man.
Yeah.
And it's and Thor, and not having them together is silly to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
And I think that's one of the strengths of this show.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, so we're going to take a break and come back with our coverage of Avengers number 9.
Yeah, I'll just say real quick. Oh, Avengers number 8. But real quick, you can email me or comment me about my comment about this show being better than the MCU. I won't change my mind. All right, we will be back after the break to talk comics.
That's right.
Welcome back to Issues with Cartoons. We are going to be covering Avengers, issue number 8, the debut of Kang the Conqueror. The cover copy says, "This is Kang, destined to rank as one of the most unique villains of all time."
C, the mighty Avengers trapped. C, the Team Brigade in action. C, action, drama, thrills, as only Marvel can present them.
Can you think of any one man whose power is greater than that of the Avengers? Don't answer that until you meet Kang the Conqueror, and wait till you learn his surprising identity. I have to say, a lot of the Stan Lee cover copy is very hyperbolic, but
yeah, of course.
I will say, like most unique villains of all time, I mean, it's pretty close. There are not many like Kang the Conqueror, I feel, just in terms of
standout Marvel villain. I mean, he's lasted all this time. He's iconic, and this cover's great. I love this little force field and Thor's hammers bouncing off.
Oh yeah, I love Giant Man crouched down like he's about to do some lunges.
Yeah,
and I'd say in Avengers lore, it's so funny. I would have thought of, and when you're listing Avengers villains, I would have thought of Kang before I ever thought of Loki or Thanos, probably before 2012. Like when I think of like who are the big Avengers villains, Loki, obviously the first Avengers villain.
Yeah,
very important. I would say like not a ton of Loki Avengers villain stories in the main Avengers book after Avengers number 1. There might be some here and there.
See, that's the thing. He's not recurring.
Yeah.
Yeah, Loki just shows up for that first time.
And same with Thanos. Like, Thanos has been involved in some major Marvel Universe events, but like Avengers specifically, I'd be hard-pressed to think of very many before 2012.
Marvel's almost faster to give Thanos his own book these days.
Yeah.
It seems like whenever they want to do Thanos.
Right.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, Kang the Conqueror has a long history, especially if you consider his other identities, a long history as an Avengers villain going all the way back to the 60s where he first debuted, was a major villain in almost every Avengers era has a Kang story that has impact. I mean, characters live and die, continuities change, a lot of epic scaled events happen that have ramifications for the Marvel Universe in Avengers titles featuring Kang as the villain. And this is where it started.
This is pretty early on. This is 1963. You know, this is an early Marvel appearance.
Yeah, and,
really.
to your point, this is Jack Kirby is still drawing Avengers at this point. Like he wasn't on Avengers very long, but like he was there long enough to introduce one of their biggest villains.
Some of the key players,
yeah.
for sure. And now, Kyle mentioned to me that the colors are slightly different on Marvel Unlimited between the version of number 8 that's in the main canon, and we're actually both taking a look at the facsimile version.
Yeah, which is something we did, I think, with issue number 4, or maybe even Avengers number 1.
Might have been 4.
But I'm finding that the coloring and the ads are the 2 reasons, and the letters pages, the 3 reasons. Mm-hmm. You would be right to look at the facsimile version as opposed to the main line of books that they have in the Marvel Unlimited app. Because the coloring here feels a little more true to what they were probably going for in the 60s. It's still on white background. It doesn't have like the newsprint texture, but it does approximate, in my mind, a little more of what they probably did in the 1960s. And it looks great.
Yeah, we got a nice splash page here, opening up the story, you know. Type looks good. Giant Man, Thor, Captain America, and Rick Jones.
Rick Jones is there. And Wasp is signing autographs in Wasp form holding that giant pencil, which seems impressive.
It's always more fun when artists draw Ant-Man and the Wasp, like, interacting with objects larger than them.
Yes.
And when, like, Ant-Man's shrunken down and there's, like, a giant book behind him and stuff. And there isn't enough of that from the later artists.
No.
Like,
Kirby does it a lot more than others do.
Kirby's really great at showing you that size comparison. And, you know, I think a little bit of that is definitely lost with later iterations.
I agree. One thing I want to know, just from personal experience, is that I've read this multiple times, and even going back to when I read it as a kid in those old Essentials volumes, this was always a favorite issue of mine. I've just always loved Kang. Kang is featured heavily in the Busiek Perez run that I became a fan of when I started reading comics. Avengers Forever features heavily in my canon. Like it's very important to me as a book.
Kirby does this a lot. Like on page 2, there's this cop in the foreground talking to the audience.
Oh yeah,
and he does that a lot. He does it in Fantastic Four, and he does it here. And I think it's really great at building foreground, middle ground, background.
For sure,
you know, with their characters and stuff.
And you know he sells it too, because like if you were to draw the rest of Giant Man, and you were to have the rest of his body kind of drawn into the page. I don't know if that would necessarily his feet would line up in perspective where they should with where that cop's feet would line up.
Probably not, but
it doesn't
you gotta let that go.
Because the composition still looks really good.
Yeah, you gotta let stuff like that go.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
We also get in the bottom of that page a nice little look at Janet's headscarf that she's wearing. Like this
that was one of the things I noticed is they changed Jan's costume quite a bit from her first appearance, and I think it's not as
it's
strong.
A little bit of a downgrade.
Yeah, it's not as strong as issue 1 or issue 4.
Her costume changes all the time, especially in later iterations. But some issues where I feel like some runs where I feel like it changes every issue, and you know. Some are hits and some are misses. This might be a little bit of a miss. But
so got an unidentified flying object shows up.
Yeah,
a UFO.
So the conceit of the story is that the Avengers have been called to Washington, to the Pentagon, and they are meeting to talk about this report of a UFO that has arrived.
Is Jack Kirby drawing propaganda again?
Like the government is
gotta wonder
enlisting the help of the Avengers to uphold the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
Worth noting that this UFO that they draw looks kind of similar to the ships that we see at the end of the episode appearing around the Damocles. Not a 1-to-1 look, but pretty close, I thought.
Close enough.
And so they're watching on this monitor screen, and a little tube descends after it takes out all these tanks, and out walks Kang the Conqueror.
It's almost like an episode of The Twilight Zone.
It feels very much like Day the Earth Stood Still,
right.
Twilight Zone. Like it feels like an old 50s sci-fi visit.
How do you feel, Kyle, about the way Kang's drawn here?
So different from modern iterations. Primarily,
it is.
I'll say the costume itself, like the design elements, have pretty much held even to contemporary versions of Kang, down to like the thigh-high boots and stuff, and like the kind of big poncho that he wears. The thing that changed the most, and I think you maybe mentioned this on air earlier, maybe it was just when we were talking, but the helmet is so huge.
It's bulky in this first appearance.
Massive in this.
It's massive. And I think you see more of the man beneath the mask in these earlier versions. Like you can see his eyelids and stuff, whereas
they draw like the eye holes of the mask and the flesh underneath.
Yeah. And later iterations of Kang don't have that. They just show white.
Yeah, it almost looks like his face is blue.
Eyes with no pupils and stuff. But yeah, it's like you get a little bit more of there's a human underneath there, right?
Yeah, and I don't know. I guess we'll just talk about it here. They mention later in this issue that Kang is the same character as Rama Tut from Fantastic Four 19. And I don't know if the giant head, like bulky headgear, is supposed to be some sort of allusion to like the Egyptian pharaoh hat that he wore as.
I'm gonna say it isn't.
Tut.
I'm gonna say it isn't. But
it is such an interesting choice to make it like, because he almost looks alien with that giant head. But I've always loved this panel on page 5, that middle panel.
Where he's sitting in that chair.
It's a classic panel.
Yeah,
where you see the whole group running into the frame, and it's Kang sitting on that transparent chair, in just this lounging look. It reminds me a lot of like how you first meet Darkseid just sitting in a chair in New Gods, like he's just hanging out on a couch. He's just lounging, and you see that same kind of like casual dominance of Kang. And from the first,
even his first line's good, where he says, "No need for such seemingly speed. Time means nothing to Kang the Conqueror."
It's a good line.
Yeah, time means nothing. Yeah, so
yeah, it's a really good line.
Yeah,
and earlier when he says, "Put away your childish weapons; they are no more than toys to me." Like Kang, one of the reasons I've always loved Kang is his voice is very distinct. It's kind of in the same way that Dr. Doom or Magneto have very distinct voices. As characters, even going back to their earlier appearances, I feel like Kang's voice has always been very defined.
It's crazy how much of the character we know is just is in this issue. They don't change a lot of Kang from this first appearance. Like, he comes fully formed. Like,
that's really true.
This is the character that's in the cartoon, and this is the character that's in the comics later on, like you said, the Bluesky run, which we'll be talking about next time.
Yeah, next episode we'll be talking about
next time.
I love the old ads and the facsimile editions, but
yeah, it's fun.
Right from the get go, like he's using an anti-gravity ray to lift all the Avengers up, and Thor throws Mjolnir, and he sends it into subspace and sends it back at Thor. So right away, like, very formidable. Like, in the same way that the cartoon kind of shows that the whole Avengers are going to have to work very hard to take on this character. Like, this book does the same thing, where he's not to be trifled with.
Yeah, he sends Thor's hammer into subspace, and just he makes just quick work of them. You know, it's like not even much of a fight.
So meanwhile, the military is trying to figure out how to deal with all this. They have the Undersecretary of Defense come to try to talk things out, and
that's what I would do.
No, for sure, yeah. Send in the bureaucrats. You know, Kang loves a good bureaucrat. That's who will really handle.
You know what? The Avengers can't stop him, so might as well have the National Guard come talk to him.
Yeah, just send in the suits. But you do get a cool flashback at this point where you get references to Fantastic Four 19 and Fantastic Four Annual 2, and you get that name drop of Pharaoh Rama Tut. You actually see him on page 8 as Rama Tut with that cool Kirby tech.
So this is the retcon we were talking about from Fantastic Four 19, where Rama Tut first appears, and it's revealed. And Rama Tut is kind of like a time-traveling Egyptian character.
Yeah.
And the Fantastic Four go to Doom's castle to use his time machine, and then they fight him, and it's revealed that Rama Tut is Kang.
Right.
Basically, in this flashback.
Which is contradicting Fantastic Four Annual 2, which you said claims that Dr. Doom is Rama Tut. But then they subvert that here, and they change it here to where there's no real connection. He talks about Dr. Doom as a separate character. Yeah. He doesn't reference any history as Dr. Doom. And Kang and Dr. Doom do have some kind of relationship in comics. Kang shows up in a Dr. Doom miniseries from a few years ago. He also plays a part in the Secret Wars from the 80s. Like, they have a relationship in there.
I'm not sure they knew how to define it later on.
I agree.
They left it alone.
They were just like, it's a mess.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just make it unclear.
We'll just leave it alone.
There's been some suggestion that Kang is related to Reed Richards, Nathaniel Richards. There's even been suggestion that he's related to Doom and Reed Richards through Christophe Bernard, who's a character from, I think, the 80s and 90s Fantastic Four books.
Yeah,
again, very convoluted character, very complicated character. No one's really ever kind of made it all make sense.
Yeah, and when Ramatut appears, Doom says, "You could be me," or "I could be you," and it's like, why doesn't Ramatut remember being Doom?
Right.
And why doesn't Doom remember being Ramatut?
Right.
And then the other thing is Ramatut could be Doom's descendant as well. They bring up.
And what's so interesting is when you look at the 60s and you look at Marvel and you look at the different stories, time travel kind of comes up a lot in the different books. Like there's Zarko the Tomorrow Man in the Journey into Mystery books. There's Immortus later in the Avengers books.
Yeah.
They could have made any number of decisions about who Kang is.
Oh, for sure.
And
they could have defined it.
And they decided to contradict the Fantastic Four annual, which they were aware of because they mention it in the book. They made a conscious decision to just contradict it and make it its own thing. Related to Ramatut instead of tying it to Doom.
I don't know if they were just trying to make Kang seem like more of a threat. Like, we've faced him before kind of thing. And
maybe.
Now he's back to threaten the Avengers, you know?
You also wonder if maybe they were just trying to make Doom unique and not tie him into this time travel kind of soup that they were mixing with Ramatut.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, maybe it was more about making Doom and less about making Kang tied in with other characters. I don't know. It's interesting. But you get this cool scene where he's from the 30th century. He goes back to, from the year 3000. He goes back to the ancient Rome or ancient Egypt. And then he goes back, but he overshoots and goes to 4000. So already we're overcomplicating it. But you get this cool sequence where he becomes Kang and starts amassing an army.
Yeah, he starts taking over the future. He starts taking over these worlds and stuff and building an empire. And and these crazy looking henchmen that Kirby draws, the one with the flamethrower.
Yeah.
I pointed out to you that these same designs show up in the Bluesky run.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. So it was whoever the artist was there went back to this Kirby issue, picked out these characters, and drew them into the background.
Well, which was cool. And we'll talk about this next episode, I'm sure. But Kurt Busiek has talked before about he will give a script, and then the references that he has for that script, he'll attach files for that have references, and the references will be as long or longer than the script itself. So I'm sure it was a collaboration, but they know their stuff. That one, blue face one, almost looks like a moloid.
I don't know.
I'm sure it's not
issues with cartoons. Reach out to us if these characters have names.
Yeah, I'd be interested.
Because I would be interested to know as well.
Because again, Kang comes back all the time, and there are different versions of what his army looks like. There's even in the Don Heck issues, he has a different looking army that has characters with names. The Anachronauts from the 90s comic we read with the Wasp creature a few episodes ago.
That's right.
But anyway, so Kang...
basically, he explains his origin in true supervillain fashion.
Yes.
And then the Avengers start brawling with him again. It's just
Yeah, he proclaims himself ruler of the 20th century, and then they just start jumping him.
They're that's nice. Thanks. You're from the future. All right, let's fight.
And prove, again, to be very ineffective to Kang. He's pretty much has an answer to everything they're trying to dish out at him.
And his force field's called the matter screen.
The antimatter screen.
Yeah, the little white.
Yeah, you get that same force field from the cover.
I was about to bring that up.
Yeah,
it's the same force field.
I like that they actually have that featured as a moment in the issue.
And then this is another thing where nobody draws the Wasp like Kirby, because it's you get this scale of the Wasp is tiny and she's climbing into Kang's helmet to sabotage it and stuff. It's fun, man.
Yeah, can I mention real quick, because we get a little Stan Lee writing women thing here again.
Oh, okay. What is it?
And it's very subtle, but I noticed it. So you mentioned that Wasp tries to get into his helmet. He grabs her in a great panel where you see her in this giant hand.
Yeah.
And then the caption on the next panel says, I'm going to read it, because Wasp is the one who's trapped. The panel says, from across the field, Giant Man mentally triggers his cybernetic antenna, causing the Wasp to revert to her normal size as Kang momentarily loosens his grip in a stunned surprise. I want to rewrite that copy for Stan Lee to make it a little better. Wasp, who is fully capable of changing size on her own, without any help from anyone from across the way to come in and swoop in and save her, grows to normal size and surprises Kang by loosening his grip.
She's so submissive to, like, her thoughts are like, hey, at least this will give the others a chance to attack. Like, don't mind that she just broke into Kang's helmet and tried to blow out the circuitry.
Yeah, doing more than anyone else was freaking doing.
Yeah.
And we totally skipped over page 5 where she says, while everyone's talking about how intimidating Kang looks, her dialogue is, I'll bet he's not bad looking under that silly headgear he's wearing.
I hate
Stanley.
I hate to say this, but like every early appearance of Jan, she either hits on another man.
Yeah.
Like
or
she either
talks down on Hank.
Talks down on Hank, or is like talking about how attractive Thor looks, or is talking how attractive Cap looks, or I'm
not trying to make
wild.
excuses for it by saying this, but they were clearly writing this for a bunch of little kids, like they were writing it for boys.
For sure.
And it's clear that Stan Lee was not thinking about feminism.
No.
But it is just frustrating as a modern reader knowing what Janet will become to make her just so passive, just no agency at all in this interaction. Now later she will have a part to play because in the next page, Kang captures all the male Avengers except for Rick and Janet.
Yeah.
I think kind of suggesting that they're the weaklings of the group, which is unfair. But they basically have to come up with a plan. On page 12, you get this really nice sequence of panels where you see all the Avengers trapped.
And how they're dealing with it.
Yeah. And then you get Rick and Janet, and then on page 13, this is where I noticed the headgear for Wasp looking especially bad. With the little tufts of hair peeking out.
I didn't mind it as much as that. I thought it looked worse earlier. I like the little panel with her and Rick Jones, actually. I don't mind that. That's a good face.
Paired together. That's a good pairing. I feel like we don't see a lot of those two together.
Yeah, I think Kirby did a good job rendering her face and stuff.
The face looks great. The face is not where I'm...
The costume design is weak compared to like her little helmet from Avengers 1.
Yeah, but you know what? It's forgiven because he also created a very strong villain design. So, you know.
Kyle, he's been drawing the Marvel Universe the last 3 months. He's literally like I don't even feel right to criticize Kirby because it's just like he's coming up with all this brilliant stuff. Yeah, he's like,
I mean, way more hits than misses, I'll say.
Yeah, he's like drawing the best stuff of his career right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. The
it
output,
is.
We can't forget the output of this man is absolutely insane.
It is insane.
So the Team Brigade shows up and they're saying we're gonna be on your side, and he very quickly agrees to make them his personal servants on Earth, and he gives them full unfettered access to his spaceship.
I have a great pitch for Marvel. It just occurred to me. How about Team Brigade versus Yancey Street Gang? Yeah. And then let me draw it and write the dialogue. How about that?
We don't need to pitch this to Marvel. Just draw that, Carl. Who would win? I want to know who would win.
Just a brutal confrontation on the streets of New York.
Listen, the Yancey Street Gang would have all of the Team Brigade up by their underwear on a flagpole. And I think the only one who makes it out alive is probably Rick. I think Rick would probably be the only one who would lay him out. But I feel like the rest of the Team Brigade would probably...
just wanted to pitch that real quick.
I love that, though. I want to read that. I think that would be good. And you know what would be great? Because Hulk and Thing already have a rivalry.
And they're both leaders. They're both leaders of each gang.
So every time Hulk and the Thing fight, it's like off-panel somewhere, the Yancey Street Gang and the Team Brigade are also fighting. We shouldn't air this. That we should keep this pitch to ourselves. That's great.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, they get this capsule, this device that Kang asked them to get, and they drop it, and it releases. It's an Energizer tank, and it just starts leaking energy, just randomly, and it's really upset Kang, and it gives the Team Brigade a chance to release the Avengers.
Yeah, so Team Brigade saves the Avengers. You know, Thor gets free. He slaps his walking stick down and transforms into Thor.
That panel of him breaking down that wall looks really good.
That does look really good. That looks something out of like an animation or something.
Yeah,
that's
it does.
Great.
And meanwhile, Wasp is at Hank's lab putting together a device, finally showing some agency.
About time.
And gets some ants to help her fly it over to Hank.
Damn, she's like Ripley for the next 3 panels. She's like putting that gun together,
pretty
having
badass,
the ants
Janet.
fly. Yeah,
where's this energy for? You know what this is? This is Kirby doing
this
plot, and the rest is all of my criticisms so far have been in the dialogue and in the captions, which is not Kirby's job according to Stan. So I'm just going to say that. The middle panel of Kang dealing with the device while you see all the Avengers kind of descending from the ship. I like the shots of all of them together, and with Kang kind of in the center. It just looks really good.
It's kind of like what Perez would do later.
Yeah, for
later
sure.
on with all the little tiny figures. There's like, he shows you where everyone's at.
And then so Janet arrives with this ray gun and tosses it to Hank, and Hank is going like full Howling Commandos on page 18, where he's just sprawled out on the ground with this ray gun pointed at Kang.
And Kirby's getting tired. There's no backgrounds.
Yeah. We're hitting deadlines.
Kirby's
Deadlines
running out of steam, and you'll notice, no backgrounds on the next page either.
Yeah. Well, then that's okay. Kirby's tired. He's trying to build a universe here.
So Hank's got this gun.
Yeah, I'm looking for what he calls it, but it's basically a
power ray.
Yeah, power ray.
It's the power ray.
And he shoots Kang with it, and Kang is just super disheveled after he gets hit.
Yeah, his costume's all ripped up.
It's honestly rendered very cool. I like. It's very clear that he's been kind of put through the ringer.
Kang's struggling. Iron Man gets a shot here.
So then Kang sets off a neutrino missile that Iron Man diverts and saves very quickly. It's kind of presented as like the last gambit that Kang has, and it's dealt with in 4 panels. And so then Kang makes a last play with some radioactive emissions.
Yeah, from his helmet, which is like just crazy looking.
Crazy.
Yeah, he just starts shooting radioactive waves out of his helmet.
I like that panel with the energy lines kind of emanating from his face, and then it transitions to a very inky kind of
it's like Raiders.
Expressionist.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, it is.
Except in reverse.
I mean, I really like the color choices. I don't remember how it's presented on the Masterworks version, but
if he used radioactivity, why wouldn't they all turn into Spider-Man?
Or the Hulk, yeah, or Daredevil,
right?
Or
like are we gonna have like double powered Avengers now? Like what are we doing here? Anyway,
there's so many you could pitch. All right,
I know. About time.
So Kang
about time I drew a comic.
Yeah. You'll get there.
Anyway, so Kang makes his escape, basically. He shoots this radioactive wave, and then he gets in his spaceship.
Kang says he's escaped into time. And then, kind of similar to the end of the episode, Rick says, Cap, do you think he'll ever return? And then Cap just kind of has to say, like, well, we can never be sure, but one thing is sure. Like, he knows that he's not unbeatable, and we'll be here waiting. And it's very prescient because they will constantly be having confrontations with Kang.
Yeah, it's very triumphant. The Avengers are just kind of like, let him scram. We'll be here to defend Earth when he comes back.
Dude, there's so many good Kang stories. Like there's one where he goes to the Old West, and it's like the Old West Marvel characters teaming up with the Avengers. There's like the cross time Council of Kangs, where you have all those different like alien versions and variant versions of Kang.
Like
there's so many good ones.
I like this letters page they left, and like Stanley's like, shame on you, Christopher. You've missed some Marvel mags. We've had villains who shrunk completely out of sight, and so many of our heavies have tumbled out of spaceships, and they've become a menace to interstellar navigation. Anyways, we love our little villains. And if you don't watch out, we'll kill a hero or two just to get even.
Oh my God,
Stan's going off.
Stan.
No, this stuff's fun. I'm big fan of all the facsimile stuff Marvel's doing because it's just putting great comics back into circulation.
Tell you what, you'll sell 1 million copies if you make a newsprint.
Yeah.
I always like looking at the letters pages because I like checking to see, A, if anyone's from our home state, which there's a Toledo letter in here.
Yeah, that's fun.
They printed the addresses. That's just crazy.
That is wild. They want to do that now.
Oh, no way. And then I also always look for if any of the names are people we know. Because, like George R.R. Martin wrote letters.
Yeah.
Lee Kirby and like...
Some of them become artists later themselves. Yeah.
So it's interesting.
It's good.
But yeah, that's Avengers number 8. A very storied, important book in Avengers canon and Marvel canon. One that would have huge ramifications years to come.
Yeah, it's a good read too. Like I enjoyed it. Never reading now. Like I said, I've seen Kang show up before, but I've never read like his first appearance, and I really enjoyed it, especially pairing it with like I think we've mentioned before. I've been reading a lot of the early Fantastic Four stuff, and this ties in directly with that. So
it has to be cool to have that experience because you're like a kid buying it off the newsstand. Like if you're a Fantastic Four fan and an Avengers fan, you're getting that cohesion. You've been getting a lot of that between like Namor showing up in some of the other books we've read.
Yeah,
Hulk showing up in those Fantastic Four books you're reading, and now here with Rama Tut and Kang. That's cool that you're getting to experience that.
It's all really good stuff too. Like I would recommend, like if you want to read the beginnings of Marvel, I'd recommend it. I almost want to say that like Fantastic Four is essential. Like to understanding the continuity of Marvel.
Unquestionably.
Yeah, like so many characters. Like Black Panther makes his first appearance, and the Inhumans, and so much of the lore.
Negative Zone.
Yeah, so much of the lore.
All kinds of stuff. I would even say like, if you had to pick 3 books from the '60s Marvel to read to like get a sense of what they were building, I'd say like Amazing Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and the Avengers probably.
Yeah, you could skip X-Men because
I think you can skip X-Men until the '70s. Honestly.
Yeah,
I mean,
read X-Men #1, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say X-Men #1 would be good. But like a lot of like the X-Men show up in crossovers and kind of give you that sense anyway.
They do.
So you kind of almost can get a better sense without having to read through all that.
Don't the X-Men show up in Tales of Suspense too? Like they creep back in.
They definitely show up in some Avengers that we've read.
That's what I mean. Like, even when the X-Men book gets canceled, they show up. Like, Magneto shows up as a villain. Shows up in Fantastic Four and stuff. Absolutely. Like, Stan, loved that character.
Yeah, well, and Magneto will be a villain in other Avengers books, too, and stuff. I'm stalling because I'm trying to remember where else the X-Men do show up. I know, like, Beast will be in, like, Astonishing Tales, I think it was. Or Amazing Tales, whatever the book was where he becomes Furry Beast.
Yeah, and
he had some runs there. I think Iceman gets some play.
Beast full-on becomes an Avenger before any of the other X-Men. Yeah. Like, we're so used to seeing Wolverine as an Avenger now.
Well, but like Wolverine becoming an Avenger was super controversial, and my answer to that was like, guys, Beast has been an Avenger for, like, 30 years.
Beast was the original X-Man to become an Avenger.
He was.
Yeah.
He was the first. And was an Avenger for... There was probably a point in the 70s where he had been an Avenger longer than an X-Man.
Yeah, it's true.
Because, after the giant-sized X-Men changeover, and again, we're not talking about Kang anymore, but we are talking about Avengers lore, Beast has very deep-seated relationships with a lot of the Avengers from being on that team for a lot of the 70s. I mean... I'd be interested to know, like, in 1975, had he been an X-Man longer than an Avenger at that point? I wonder if the answer is no. Certainly he's been an X-Men longer now, because he would go back in the later years. But
later on, it's true. But I think that's almost more interesting to have Beast start as an X-Man and he becomes an Avenger, and then he doesn't return to the X... I don't think he returns to the X-Men until X-Factor.
I bet you're right.
Yeah,
I bet you're right.
Yeah, I think he remains an Avenger.
Which would have been in the 80s. So was he in the X... I know he was like on the Champions and stuff, but I think that was even later.
So anyway, write issues with cartoons. Let us know.
Contact at IssuesWithCartoons.com for questions, comments, concerns, and trivia about Beast's membership and the Avengers. I am going to touch a little bit on that era when we talk about next week's Avengers issues.
Oh, the Bluesky issues.
Yeah, because there is some Beast stuff going on.
Okay.
Carl, anything you want to plug?
This might be, a loaded question. Any more you want to say about Kang, Kyle?
So much. I'm glad we have 3 episodes to talk about Kang. I could do a whole podcast on Kang.
That's what I mean.
Kang,
you have a lot of
the
thoughts, I know.
Yeah. There's so much to talk about. But other than I'm glad we read this. I'm glad Kang's getting some time to shine. Long overdue. And I'm glad we're going to get to stick with him for a few more episodes.
As far as stuff I want to plug, www.carllucasdraws.com. Check out Shogun there in the House of Horrors. Kyle, what do you got?
Real quick, when does your sequel come out?
Sequel, I am not sure, but all the art is done. I am painfully drawing it analog. I'm inking every single page.
Looks good.
And hand drawing it, and I'm going to do the typography digitally. I don't want to, but I'm going to.
It's okay.
And it'll be out sooner than later. I think when it's out, hopefully this podcast will be out.
Yeah, I was going to say, so as far as things that I'm going to plug, first of all, Ko-fi.com/kylewindle. I almost want to say my URL for the website I'm working on now, but I'm worried I'm not going to get that done in time.
Save it for later. We got plenty of time.
I want to be like Babe Ruth. I'm going to point to the bleachers and call my shot. I'm going to say by the time this episode airs, I will have finished not only my Thunderduck mini, my Mad Science Rejects mini that I've already plugged on the show, not only Cornelius Armstrong Adventures and Antics, I'm also going to say that by the time this airs, you will also be able to have access to Cornelius Armstrong and the Great Goodheart one-shot that I'm currently drawing, but will hopefully be done by the time this airs. And if not, you can all make fun of me for not hitting myself.
You heard it here first, though. That's the first time I've heard Kyle talk about there's a Cornelius sequel.
It's going to get done, baby.
So
I'm going to even say there's another Mad Science Rejects mini I'm hoping to get done, but I'm not going to promise that.
Yeah, so me and Kyle are making strides with our sequels. They're coming. We have more independent comics.
I'll say if you want me to not hit my deadline on time and you want to make me eat my words, you should commission me, and then I'll have to take time out of my day to draw your commission. Instead of working on my comic, but I will miss my deadline for your commissions. You can follow us on social media. Carl's making a TikTok. I'll maybe make a Bluesky account, but we're definitely on Instagram, and you can follow us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, and email us, and stay engaged.
More issues to come.
Stay tuned.